One of the most powerful productivity methods to get more done in less time is time batching. The ability to match two or more similar tasks within a time block can skyrocket your productivity. Ultimately, this is going to help you simplify your work and get more done with less stress. In this video, we're going to be going over how to time batch, what to time batch, and my best time batching tips when it comes to getting the most out of it. I'll run you through everything that I time batch and some other examples and strategies that can help you as well. Let's get to it. What is time batching? Time batching is where you take two or more similar or identical tasks and do them within the same time block. Keeping the tasks similar prevents your brain from switching mindsets too often. So an example of this is an analogy I got from Tim Ferriss. And the analogy is laundry. Quote, laundry. You wouldn't do your laundry every time you have a new pair of dirty socks. You wait for a certain amount of critical mass of laundry to accumulate, and then you do your laundry. This is essentially time batching in a nutshell. Think about the tasks that you do on a regular basis, whether it's personal or business, and where you can put them on your calendar. In business, you might want to block your afternoons for admin and emails because they're both very similar tasks. For personal tasks, you might want to block out some time on the weekend to either clean your house and do your laundry in one block. Taking tasks that are very similar in nature and putting them together in the same calendar block is the key here. You're going to be more efficient when you time block things that complement each other into one block. Now, on the other hand, if you're time batching with content creation, like making social media posts, and then you're time batching that with admin work, like answering emails. Answering emails are going to distract you from focusing on creating, leaving you unproductive and inefficient. And the goal is to match complementary tasks and projects to increase efficiency. So let's say you have a full-time job and you need to batch produce social media content for your side hustle or whatever project you're currently doing. This could be anything from making YouTube videos to recording podcasts to writing a blog or Instagram content, or really any type of creative work you can think of. Start by looking at your calendar and pick a block of time where you can batch produce this content. An example of this would be if all your work's in front of a camera. Maybe you're filming a few YouTube videos and then filming a few Instagram reels. Those would pair really well together. If your work is on a computer, especially administrative work, you can typically mix and match those tasks. Or maybe you're writing blog posts that you can match with writing captions for your Instagram account. Those pair very well because they're both writing. There are a ton of benefits to matching tasks within the same categories, such as filming, writing, administrative, personal tasks, as long as the core elements of these tasks are very similar in nature. Now let's get into the benefits of time batching. The first benefit of time batching allows you to get into deep work. I got this concept from a book called Deep Work, written by productivity expert Cal Newport. He explains the concept of deep work being deep work is a state of peak concentration that lets you learn hard things and create quality work quickly. Many people refer to this as getting in a flow or getting in a productive zone when they're doing a task that requires a high level of attention. Now, on the flip side of this, we have shallow work, which is work that takes less attention and does not require deep thought. This is often referred to as busy work. This could be admin or answering emails or updating your calendar. And we can't achieve deep work by time batching deep work tasks with shallow work tasks. I have an entire video on deep work and I'll link it in the description below. But time batching allows you to get into deep work quicker due to the similarity in nature of the tasks you're doing at one time. The second benefit is it builds momentum and confidence. Building momentum is the result of getting into the productive zone or flow state with deep work. It's like any other complex task. It takes a few minutes to get into something, and then once that gets going, that momentum builds. Once you get the ball rolling on projects, as long as you maintain focus, you can really build up some momentum and knocking out task after task after task. This, over the course of days and weeks, will ultimately compound over time, ultimately giving you the productive momentum and confidence with your work. Number 3, you consolidate preparation time. So many tasks have a setup cost in terms of time, meaning if you're going to film like today, like what I'm doing right now, you have to set up all the equipment and filming gear and make sure the lighting is good and get everything set up, and that takes time. Or with writing, you may have to get everything set up on your computer and then get into that creative zone. This takes uninterrupted time, and task switching will force you to repeat that setup time. This setup time can be costly if you're doing it over and over and over. So time batching is going to help you save from wasting that setup time. So the fourth benefit is it eliminates distractions and interruptions, and it allows you to do more in less time. And this is an extension of tip number one. In order to create uninterrupted time, you have to actually limit the amount of potential interruptions that could happen. Now, you might not be able to eliminate distractions completely, but you can definitely limit them. And my advice here is to take time to turn off notifications on your phone and also turn off any email notifications. That's a great place to start. So if you're writing or editing and you don't need the internet, turn your computer on airplane mode to prevent you from getting distracted on websites and, again, social media. I highly recommend you take the time to do these. Time batching allows you to eliminate distractions and interruptions all at once. The fifth benefit of time batching is it will help you decrease stress from hopping from task to task. During some of your work, you might find yourself going from one task to the other, and it costs you a lot of mental energy. You might be working on a project and then you get pulled away to your email, and then you scroll over to your calendar, and then you decide you have a short amount of time to film an Instagram video or YouTube video. Just thinking about that makes me exhausted and stressful alone. What you want to do is decrease hopping from task to task, which kills your mental energy. The less task switching you can do, the more mental focus and energy you'll have. So time batching solves this problem. Now that you know what time batching is and all the benefits that come along with it, what do we actually time batch? And the answer is really anything, but I'll give you some examples. You could time batch any creative work that complements each other. You could time batch writing, filming, reading, researching, admin work, emails, DMs, calls, client work. Literally anything you do in abundance or you're consistently doing each week is a good place to start with time batching. Now that you've decided what to batch, now we have to figure out what intervals you should actually batch in. And there are three main time batching intervals that we're going to be talking about today. It's daily, weekly, and monthly time batching. This will vary per individual based on how you operate, your environment, your workplace, and any time constraints that come with those. Without knowing all of the context to your specific situation, it's hard to give you specific advice. But a good place to start is understanding what time batching days, weeks, and months looks like and their differences, and I'll give you examples from each, and then from there you'll be able to pick on your own. So for time batching days, you can batch all of your creative work on one day. Maybe on the other days, you can batch your client work or meetings. So on those creative time batching days, your mind is focusing just on producing content. On the client work and meeting days, your mind is focusing on presenting information and responding to others. So you can see how those kind of group to each other. For time batching weeks, you can batch similar tasks week to week. If you have an online business, for example, you might take 1 week and just focus on marketing tasks. And then you could batch all of your copying and writing on another week. And then on the following week, you could batch all of the production of the marketing materials. And then you can continue to batch something different on the fourth week. So I'm going to give you 3 clear-cut examples later on in this video that will break everything down visually. And I think once you see everything visually, it's going to really help you make sense of this concept. For time batching monthly, there are a few things you can do at this level. One of the best things you can do in a monthly time batch is planning. You could time batch for each part of your business. Let's say your business has a few parts. There's a marketing part, there's a sales part, maybe there's a business operations part, there's another operations part for actually delivering the service, like maybe your methodology, and then there's a finance part. Each one of these sections requires a certain amount of planning. Typically, you're not overhauling your systems on a day-to-day basis, and this type of planning for businesses is done on a monthly basis. You could think of it almost as like a monthly review. So you have to ask yourself, what are your monthly initiatives and can they be batched here? Now, which time batching interval should you do? And it's like I kind of mentioned before, context matters. You're just going to have to try it out first and see what works for you. I would highly recommend starting off though by batching small pockets of time or just batching 1 day at a time to get started. So let's get into how to actually time batch. How to start time batching. I'm going to break it down into a few easy to follow steps. So step number 1 is do a mind sweep and write down everything you have to do. Just take out a piece of paper or use your project management software and get everything out of your head. I have a whole video on how to do this and I'll link it in the description below. So step number 2, now that you have a list of everything you have to do, match all of your tasks that work well together. Now I went over this earlier in the video, but you want to time batch similar tasks. like writing, filming, editing, podcasting, blogging, administrative work, or emails. Of all of those things that you do, match tasks with similar qualities. Step 3, look at your calendar for things you do every week or on a regular basis. What reoccurs daily or weekly? Are things done or required to be done at certain times each day or each week? Once you've answered that, you'll be better able to rearrange your schedule. Step 4, schedule your time batches. Now that you know what you're gonna batch, and you also know what happens reoccurring each week, now we have to actually plan those time batches. Even if it's only for a few hours a day, you should still be able to get some time batching in. So open your calendar and plan in the time batching. One tip here is don't time batch when you're tired. So don't plan your time batches like right after a long day of work. In this case, you might want to eat dinner and take a break and then time batch after. Or in the case that you are stressed throughout the week and you're really crunched for time batch on the weekends when you have adequate rest from the week. Be conscious of your energy when you plan this stuff out. Time batching is very intense and will drain you if you just go back to back to back. So tip number 5, commit and do the work. So now is the time to get the work done, and you just have to do it. A pro tip here to keep you focused and locked in during your time batches is to use the Pomodoro technique. It's the #1 technique I use to stay focused to increase my productivity. And I use this method to do almost all of my work. Before I get into real world examples of time batching, I have a quick question of the day. Do you already time batch, or is this something you plan on implementing? Let me know in the comment section below. I've been doing it for a while, and I remember when I first started, I was a little hesitant, but once I got going, I got the hang of it, I saw my productivity skyrocket and my stress decrease. So let me know if this is something you're doing or something you're planning on doing. Let's get into the real world examples of time batching. So if you haven't decided how you're going to implement this strategy yet, these examples should help you decide. Again, you can start off by batching days or even small pockets of time. So with time batching, I start by theming my days out. And you can see on the calendar, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are my client work and admin days. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, they're my content creation days. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm servicing all of my clients and taking any client calls for current clients or prospective clients. And then in the time between those client calls or sessions, I also do shallow work like admin tasks. And the one advantage of that is if there's a short amount of time between clients, I can quickly get that work done. I can get into the work and out of it quickly. There's not a ton of setup time. There's not a lot of setup costs. I can literally pop in, knock out a few emails, update a few things on the calendar, and then I'm on to the next client. And this is intentionally done because I can't film anything long-term in that short amount of time, right? If I'm writing a longer blog or I'm doing a longer video, anything like that just can't be done in a short amount of time. Or if I do have like an hour, it might take me like 15 minutes to get into it. And then once I get rolling, I have to shut it down. So that doesn't really make sense. So in those days, I pack in all of my admin work, updating calendars, sending quick emails, updating my project management software, updating to-do lists, and anything that doesn't require a ton of effort. Now on my creative days, that's where I'm gonna time block longer periods of time and then time batch within those blocks. So I might do a 2 to 3 hour block of researching or writing, and then later on in the day, I might do another time batch of filming or maybe editing. That way I'm focused on just creative work and not distracted by emails or client calls. Here's another example. Let's say you don't have the ability to theme out days and you do similar things on a daily basis. So for my example, let's say I take clients every single day. The answer here is to time batch small pockets of time. And this is where you're gonna have to leverage time blocking. On the calendar, you can see this example. I have to do client work each day, but I still have to get my creative work in during the week. These small pockets show exactly what I do. So on Monday, I have a small pocket of time for filming. Tuesday is a small pocket of time for editing. Thursday is a pocket of time for writing. And Friday, I have filming and editing since it is a slower day of the week. If I have any extra time on Saturday or Sunday, I'll batch organize everything, and that's kind of just setting me up for the next week. Now, your schedule might not look exactly like this, but take some of these concepts and try apply to your own situation. Let's run through a few examples of weekly time batching, specifically batching creative work. And let's give the example if you only have a few hours during the week, or maybe you only have a few hours on the weekend to batch and create content for your business or side hustle. So example one, let's take a person that predominantly creates longer form content. So maybe it's a YouTube channel, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a vlog, and their posting schedule is that they're posting one video or podcast per week, and then they have to make some sort of short form or promotional material to promote it. So week one, you would time batch your researching, outlining, and writing your script. So we're going to research, outline, and write the script for 4 different videos or podcasts. For week 2, you're going to come back and you're going to film those scripts, or you're going to record those podcasts, and you're going to record either 4 videos or 4 episodes. Then we're going to come back on week 3 and do any type of post-production like editing, or maybe you're adjusting the sound. And then from there on week 4, you're going to schedule all of your posts, optimize, and create some smaller promotional material. And you're going to do 4 of those, right? So you're going to post all 4, you're going to optimize it with the SEO, and then on top of that, you're going to create maybe 4 small, either Instagram posts or something small that you can get out to promote your longer form content. This is a good example of somebody that needs to time batch with limited time. So let's go over to our second example. Example number 2 is somebody that predominantly puts out shorter form content. Their posting schedule might be they post on Instagram 3 times a week, they post on Facebook 3 times a week, maybe they have 1 email a week to go out for a newsletter, and then they do 1 longer form podcast. So week 1, you could batch 12 Instagram posts. That's 4 weeks of content. Then you could come back in week 2 and time batch 12 Facebook posts, which again is 4 weeks of content. You'll have all of your content done for the month. Week 3, you could batch 4 emails or new emails for your email sequence, and that would be 1 month of emails. And then you come back on week 4 and batch 4 outlines or notes for your podcasts or Instagram lives or any of the longer form content you put out. As you can see, when you time batch for the month, you can systematically attack each individual piece of content that you produce in a systematic way that's going to actually make you more efficient. So example number 3 would be predominantly like longer form content. Maybe you're doing writing, like you do a blog each week. So week 1 would be you research and outline 4 different blog posts. So you're doing all of your research, all of your writing on one. Second week, you come back and you actually write the first draft of those blog posts. We fill out those outlines, right? And then you come back on week 3, we do the final editing and make sure you have the final draft of those 4 blog posts. And then from there, on week 4, you schedule all the posts, optimize SEO, and then create promotional material. Maybe you go into Canva and you cut out a few Instagram posts or something small to promote that. So time batching months is one of my personal favorite things to do. It helps me simplify all of my content production, from producing to posting to scaling and reviewing it. It really helps organize everything. So there's a few other tips that I wanted to give you, and there's a lot of questions that come up with time batching. So how do you know how much time to plan? And you have to get good at estimating, but also planning in the margin. The more time batching you do, the better you get at estimating how much time you'll need for most tasks and projects. But Cale Newport, productivity expert, recommends 20 to 30% extra time. So err on the side if it's going to take you more time than you think it is. I don't think that you're going to be too upset if you finish early on a task or project that you thought was going to take longer. The second thing to consider is what happens when plans change. And the name of the game here is adaptability. You want to plan, but you also can't be afraid to go off script. You can move your time block and time batches as needed and as your schedule allows. Life comes at you quick, things change, and you have to adapt fast. And if you ever have any extra time earlier in the week, I would also plan on bumping those time batches up, look to accomplish those tasks earlier in the week if your calendar allows. The key here is trying not to waste time. If that time is already set aside to be productive, why not just make the best of it? Just make sure you're time batching similar tasks and projects together and then experiment around with it, and eventually you'll find your groove with time batching. Now that you'll understand how to time batch and why it's necessary to really be productive with your time, check out my video on planning your week. I'll go in depth helping you plan your most productive week possible. I hope you found these time batching tips helpful. Until next time, stay productive.